How exciting, if not terrifying, you finally decided to bring on your integrator. Oh my gosh. As a visionary myself, I'll tell you, it is a great relief when you have the right integrator with you to really add that rocket fuel to your business. But now that terrifying part comes in when you're thinking about, oh my gosh, how can I find this person? How am I gonna make sure it really works? How am I gonna absolutely turn over my baby to somebody else to help manage? Well, it's really no different than having two parents raising a child. It's easier that way than if you're trying to do it all alone. It's possible, it's just easier. So if you made it this far to our website, you already know that you can see our Visionary Integrator Catalyst process, and we're gonna click on this here to walk you through the process that you can see on the website yourself. Anytime you see something underlined, there'll be a sample you can click on, so I encourage you to do that in any of our pages. But we're gonna start with the fact that the number one reason integrators fail is because of the visionary. And that's for a few different reasons, but number one, the visionary has always done the visionary and integrator things both at the same time. And intellectually, it sounds great to delegate all the day-to-day stuff away to somebody else so that you can do the stuff you've always wanted to do, the stuff that was the reason you started your business. The challenge is, once that person comes on board, you look at them and go, oh, you're here. Now what am I gonna do? If I delegate all this stuff to you, what am I gonna do? This is the stuff that always gave me my identity. So, you know what? Why don't you just shadow me for a while, get to know the business, get to know the industry, and then little by little, I'll delegate this stuff to you. And I know I told you everybody was going to be reporting to you, but why don't you earn the trust of the team first, and then little by little, maybe one at a time, I'll have them report to you. Well, if it's set up that way, you know that eventually 12 months, 18 months down the line, when the integrator still feels like a substitute teacher, they're out. Emotionally or physically, they're gone. So the first thing we have to do is get crystal clear about what the visionary's future role is going to look like when the integrator comes on board. There's lots of reasons for that, because we really need to get the whole leadership team who is accustomed to reporting to the visionary to understand that, oops, they now have a new boss. To them, no matter what they tell you, it sounds like they're getting demoted. It sounds like they're gonna be reporting to somebody else who's gonna be micromanaging them. That's ridiculous. So when we bring them together and say, we need you to help us build out what the visionary is going to be doing in the future, then we're gonna click on this visionary scorecard here, and you'll see a sample of what the sandbox is that the visionary is going to commit to staying in. Imagine how excited any candidate for the integrator is going to be to knowing the visionary, if they've already been through that substitute teacher perspective in the past, that this visionary has already committed to doing something in the future. And if we're lucky, it's stuff you can't wait to do. So the sooner the person comes on board, the sooner you can get to this good stuff. And this is where your team will start to realize, oh, now I get why we need somebody else, because there's no way my visionary can do all this stuff plus the other stuff. So now we're going to go back to our process, and we're going to show you how, once we have that defined, we're going to look at what's the integrator we need in the future. And we're going to launch our hiring process coach process for you to see the whole process. I'm not going to go through all the detail with you now. You are more than welcome to enjoy this on the website yourself, or there's a 6-minute video to give you the whole overview if you really like these videos on the process. But we're going to go through the definition phase. So we're going to build out that same scorecard on the integrator. Then we're going to build out an avatar using 3 different assessments. What would the ideal person look like to do this job in your culture? One integrator is not the same as the next, and one organization is different than everybody else's. So we have to make it unique to your situation and your business. This allows us to do that, and if you click on that later, at your convenience, you will be able to see the behavior-based interview questions we can provide you to actually make sure you and your team are interviewing for the actual skills you need in the person you're bringing on board. Once those things are complete, that's when we get into what are the hard skills and things necessary. Then all the way through the process, you will have a guide with you. One of our senior advisors will be your guide, holding your hand through the entire process. They will be with you from the beginning in defining your job, in defining the integrator's job, defining the avatar to do that job, and then holding your hand through the whole process. In addition to that, there's instructional video in every step of the way. So whether you have an in-house HR person, one of your senior leaders, or you yourself want to lead the charge on finding this person, how to create the posting that defines more of the person, less about the job. Samples of how to do that, how to really conduct a phone screen, how to make sure we're getting the right culture fit, how to prepare for and then conduct the videos, and all the way through, including doing behavior-based reference checks. Our coach will still guide you on interpreting the assessments and making sure you can compare them to what we are looking for in the person. When we use 4 sciences, nobody is going to match this perfectly. So we get to see where the gaps are. So in the performance checks and additional interviews, you and your team can zero in on those potential areas that could really trip this person up and prevent them from success, so that you can see, have they developed coping mechanisms? Have they committed to some development? Are they clueless and it's going to be a problem? But you get to figure out if it's a deal breaker or if we can create a workaround. And then when it comes to the onboarding, the visionary is going to take over here a little 2-part assessment that takes about 15 minutes to take, and somewhere between there and here, you'll be debriefed by your coach on what your leadership style is perceived by others. And then the new hire has their assessment blown up into a coaching report, and the integrator is now given a wonderful debrief on how they match up to the job. And we let the cat out of the bag. We know you're not perfect, and that's okay. But here's where you're going to have to commit to some development if you're really going to be successful. And then there's a joint session between you and the integrator on the best ways to communicate with each other, how to avoid landmines, how to really leverage each other's strengths. And then we're going to go back to our Visionary Integrator process map. And then this launches the 1-year coaching for you and your integrator. We make sure that every month you get a check-in from your coach saying, how's everything going? And even if you think things are perfect, they'll prod for things that may not be exactly right. And then based on the integrator's profile, coach you on how to have the conversations to really tweak things and get things at their optimum. They'll have the same type of conversation with the integrator and check in with them. At no point is your coach the intermediary. The whole idea through this year is to make it so that you guys have a great foundation of trust. You know how to shorten the learning curve with each other and really hit the ground running and get to that rocket fuel so that you can really propel the business forward. Once a quarter, you will have an opportunity to review each other's job scorecards. And by clicking on this quarterly PAT review, you'll be able to see this is in a different format. So we have the ability to look at the same things and to be able to measure, are we on track, yes or no? What are some of the notes we've gathered through the quarter? And so the integrator will be going over this with the visionary, and the visionary will be doing the same with the integrator. It's like the same page meeting, but on steroids. You do it at least once a quarter, unless somebody's job is at risk, you guys are in a major transition, you're making some acquisition, and percentages of times and priorities are changing like crazy and have to be updated. In those cases, you'll be able to update those either on the monthly or quarterly basis, and your coach will be guiding you through that. So when we go back, you'll see that that's an iterative process. That happens every quarter for an entire year to make sure that you and your integrator are on the same page and flying high. The best part about this is there's a guarantee. If you follow every step of the process and you don't skip any of your meetings, you don't postpone them, you don't cancel them, and something doesn't work out, we will make sure we help you bring on the next one and take you through a whole full year of coaching at no extra charge. We are so convinced this process works. When you follow it, you will have an extraordinary yin to your yang. The key is to remember, There is a process for this. No, we're not a search firm, but when you follow this process, and I can tell you that integrators are very LinkedIn friendly, you'll be surprised that finding the person isn't nearly as important as making sure you get the right person and you get extraordinary performance out of them.